Morning, Max. It's Wednesday, the 17th of December, getting much closer to Christmas. So, it's another talking video from me. I had a thought, and I basically circled back round to pretty much the conversation that I believe led us to starting the channel, and it was, you mentioned it on the first video, and it was about how we go more off grid, and at work or when I'm watching YouTube videos, these are the sort of videos that I seem to be watching at the moment, is how people are living that sort of lifestyle. First it was the phones, that was the big one, how people reduce their screen time, get away from social media, and it's slowly spiraled down to essentially how off grid can you go. And I realised that all of the content that I was watching was American. And I had a look and I thought, well, do you know what? How many people in the UK have been able to go off grid? You know, because when you watch these Americans, it's as easy as buying the plot of land and building. That's it. You know, and it's also how far do you go for that? How far do you go off grid? I've seen people build cabins where they go completely old fashioned, no idea why, but they've got like no use of plumbing whatsoever, so God knows what they do for a shitter. Can't do that, not doing it. You know, some people, they do connect to plumbing, they still manage to get a boiler, they use solar panels, or they might have a massive water tank that fills up because it rains. I've seen people that literally don't pay for any food shopping because they have their own like mini farm that they source all of their food from, so they have like chickens and things like that. Yeah. So I thought, how far can you actually go with it in the UK, and is it as easy as just buying a plot of land, building a house on it, and that's it? No, not at all. It's quite interesting. So I found, I think maybe 2 people I watched from England that done it. There's not a lot of people that do it, and there's obviously a reason why, and it's because of how hard it is. So in the UK, obviously land itself is stupidly expensive, and one of the guys that I watched bought his plot of land for 15 grand, and it makes you think that, one, you've got to be able to find big enough land for 15 grand because I can't seem to find it. 2, you've also got to have 15 grand available, and the average person doesn't have 15 grand sitting there. And then there's also the argument that, well, if you saved 15 grand, arguably maybe 30, 50, 60 if you wanted a bigger plot. Well, it's a house deposit really, so you can either get the mortgage on the house or buy a plot of land and have absolutely nothing on it. So already it almost seems to be like, well, it's a bit of a no-brainer. The other thing is, there's a law here that basically states that you can't just buy land and sell. You can't do it. So I looked more into it, and obviously with the very few people that have successfully done it that I watched on YouTube, there's such a specific way around it, and it's difficult, and it's such a risk to the point where it might not even work. So you could spend years trying to make it work and it doesn't, and you just have to give up. So there's certain requirements you need to meet to be able to do it. So there's a thing called I think it's called the 4-year dwelling rule. So if you own a plot of land and you build a settlement on it, so you can build like, you know, your own shelter, your own house, cabin, up to you. The law and the rule behind this states that if you can go 4 years undetected by like the council, the government, whatever. The council has to turn around and put their hands up and say, well, do you know what? Fair enough. It's clearly viable. You can do it. Have it. Fair enough. And it's all to do with things like planning permission, what you can and can't do on land. So it's also to prevent. I can't remember all of them, but you have different types of land. You have like agriculture and stuff like that. So in America, where you can just buy land, do what you want with it, because there's so much of it, they don't care. And a lot of that land apparently just ends up becoming a shitter because people do just do what they want with it. Whereas here, where we've got, we're a small island. If we just allowed everyone to buy land and did what they want with it, it'd probably end up being the same. A lot of the land would just probably be covered in shit. So they don't allow you to just do what you want with your own land. Obviously, it sounds like, well, why can't I do what I want with my land? But arguably, that does sound reasonable, that you can't just do what you want with it. So if you manage to go 4 years undetected by the council or whatever, you have to have met the certain requirements, which also mean that if you don't, they turn around and just basically say, right, no, not having it, knock it down. And there's a difference. So there's the unlawful side of it. I think it was called unlawful. There's unlawful and that was it. It's unlawful and illegal. So at first it's unlawful when you're just doing it and you're sort of advised not to. It's unlawful. When it becomes illegal is when you get found out and then you get told, okay, it's basically when the police get involved, or like the council send authorities and things like that, and you get told to knock it down, and then it becomes illegal. So they basically said the best way around that is just don't tell anyone, because the second you start telling people start finding out, there's a chance that they'll find out. So the whole point of this is that you have to be so secretive for 4 years. It's a long time. It's definitely doable. Something that they said to watch out for was your neighbours. So obviously where you build your plot of land, a lot of people get nosy, and especially with land it's just pure. It's people like it as is, especially out there like near villages in the countryside. They like it as it is. So if you turn up and build like a massive cabin just in the middle of nowhere, they're like, well, who's this? What are they doing? And then I think another thing that a lot of people don't like is that people do work really hard to save up for a mortgage for a house, and then it's like they're paying all of these things every month to have this house be theirs. You've turned up, built a plot of land, and you're unlawfully, lodging in a cabin that you've built off grid. So a lot of people probably see it as unfair. So you have to be very cautious about who knows that you're there, things like that. The other requirement is that your settlement has to be on a foundation. So you can't have a caravan, like a park home. So you can like take a caravan, take all the wheels off, take the like the hook that you can attach the car to take it with you to tow it. It has to have like a foundation like firm in place, otherwise it won't pass like the standards, like the rules, when you try to apply to say that this should be allowed. The other thing is that it has to be at least like 10 foot by 10 foot, and it's quite small if you think about it. You also have to see what I mean, there's a lot. You have to have standard housing requirements in it. Things like bed space, you have to have a bed in there. You have to have kitchen appliances, so you have to be able to cook in there. It's basically you have to be able to prove that you can live in there, and you also have to prove that you have lived in there for 4 years, because when you send off this application, they will do everything in their power to try and prove either you wasn't there, or anything like that, because if they catch you on any of that, then application is just, it's done, and then you get told to knock it down, and that's it. And then after 4 years, all of that's for nothing. The other big one is you can't build it and then conceal it. You can't hide it. There's ways that some of them did it. So one of them was like, I bought my land in a plot of hills, so people couldn't really see it in the distance. So you're not intentionally hiding it, you're just being smart about where you built it. The other thing was that on his roof, he put like camouflage tint, like leaves and stuff like that. So if anyone like went over, they couldn't see just the random building there really. And he's not concealing it, he's just sort of like decorating. So there's definitely clever ways about it. And this is like the funny part. So there was a thing in 2016 about, so there was a farmer, I don't even know why he done it, but he had a massive house on his farmland, and he built an extension on the back of his house. It was a castle. Look it up. Look up 2016 farmer builds castle or something like that. It will come up. Look at the size of this castle that he built just from nothing. It's insane. And he built this castle, attached it to the house, hid it, completely covered it in hay bales, and I think it was tarpaulin, you know, like the blue sheet that you'd like lay down for swimming pools or something like that. And after 4 years, he's obviously gone to the council and gone, oh, by the way, I built this and you've not noticed. And they've gone, well, where is it? And he went, well, it's behind the haystacks. And they were like, absolutely not. So they literally told him that he had to knock it down. And I think after like loads of court cases, he was just like, in the end, they basically just said, look, you're going to have to knock it down. You're not going to win. You didn't meet the requirements. It's either knock it down or go to jail. And I believe he's knocked it down. And then I read on an article somewhere that he had such a good time doing it that he's going to try and do it again, like somewhere else. So it's definitely interesting, like what you can and what you can't get away with. But it's just there's such a tight rule on it here that it almost seems impossible. Like you have to go the full 4 years completely unnoticed, and it almost makes you think like, what's the point? Because by the time you save up for the land, it's a deposit for a mortgage, you know, and there's obviously a bit more security. You don't have that fuss. You don't have that, you know, that constant fear of having to look over your shoulder. Who's this? Who's that? Yeah, it's. I don't think you can get away with it as much. The other thing actually is when you get to the end of the 4-year period and you try and prove like, hey, I've been living here, you can do certain things like have a private Instagram account that shows you, like, you can post like all your progress from start to finish to present. And the other thing that the government asked for, so this is where I was like, this just deems it impossible then. The government want proof of address. So like everything, when you sign up for stuff or you do anything like government related, you need a proof of address. So when you get a bank account or, you know, you get a job, they're like, oh, what's your address? And then when you sign up certain things, they need proof. So that includes things like letters, utility bills, council tax bills. If you bought land and then built on top of it, one, you technically don't have an address, and then two, if you're trying to hide this from the council and then go to the council, hey, I need to prove this thing is real, but because I don't have an address, can I have a council tax bill? And they go, cool, it's game over. So one thing that was quite clever that they said is to send yourself a letter through the Royal Mail. So because you don't have an address, what you need to do is find out what your postcode is, like wherever you've built it. Use that, give your land a name, and then at the nearest road, put a post box with the name of what you've called your land. And keep sending yourself handwritten letters through the Royal Mail, and eventually, because they're hand delivered, what they do is, I believe it's just the Royal Mail, because they just look, they look properly. They'll look through the postcode, and eventually one of them, apparently that can take like a couple of weeks, but after the couple of weeks or so, eventually someone will find the letterbox, and you get your letter, and the second that you get like 1 or 2 letters, it's sort of like confirmed, like, okay, the local postman knows where this is, and then you can change like all of your legal stuff, your address, like your banking, if you work, you can say like that's your address, and that completely overhauls it, because the second you get letters to that address, that's your proof of address, and that's it. Yeah, I just thought that was really interesting. It's definitely a shame, because I watch all of the videos of like the ones that go off grid in America. It is interesting to see the scale of how different people go off grid, in terms of whether people decide to do plumbing or not, whether people have boilers, whether people decide to have log burners instead of radiators and things like that. Do people have farms, or do people just carry on doing it? People's bills, etc. And here, there's just like a constant. It's like they're just trying to prevent you from. They're trying to prevent you from getting around paying for everything. There's no way of escaping the whole having to get a house that's already, addressed and under the government. And I can imagine with the whole government, what is it called? Like the new government, the digital IDs. With the new digital IDs, that's going to be even harder. If anyone was considering it. I've also read that they're considering changing the 4-year rule to the 10-year rule. That's already a thing. But I can't remember the 10-year rule entirely, but I believe that was. I think that one was to do with caravans and stuff like that. But I think they're going to change the 4-year rule to the 10-year rule, because I think that they're noticing a lot more people are getting away with it than not. So they do want to make it a lot harder for people to get away with. Yeah, it's definitely something I had a conversation with my partner about. It's definitely something she's not interested in, so that's out the window. I think because of how difficult it is here, it's definitely not something I would consider here. If I lived, somewhere in America, and it was just as easy as buying land really cheap, building it on it, and you're done, I probably would give it a go. But here, by the time you save up for the plot of land, obviously depending how big you need your land, even an acre is like 100 grand. So even by the time you save that, I might as well use that towards a house. But that's even if I could even get to 100 grand. There's a lot of people that probably want to do that, and probably like myself don't even have £1,000 saved up. So it's definitely something that's completely out of the picture. Also, have a look at the rules for New Zealand. I'm interested. Look up the dwelling laws and what you can do if you buy a plot of land, how much land is. I'm definitely interested. Right, that's all from me this week. So, we've got Christmas next week, but the next one won't be the Christmas video. But yeah, let me know about all the New Zealand stuff, and I'll see you next week.